Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you've ever wanted to master a programming language that literally powers everything from massive enterprise backend systems to the apps running right now on your Android phone, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're taking a complete hero's journey through the Scientech Easy Core Java curriculum. We're going to unpack the ultimate learning roadmap, breaking down what is honestly a massive world of Java into structured, accessible, and just highly logical steps. By following this roadmap we're laying out today, you'll see exactly how a total beginner actually transforms into a job-ready developer. Now, if the sheer idea of learning Java sounds a little intimidating, I want you to consider this quote from the curriculum's author, Deepak Gupta. He says, even if you have no prior knowledge of Java, you won't face any difficulty understanding these tutorials. That is the entire philosophy of this source material. It's built around that specific promise. It's designed to be approachable, layering on the complexity only after your foundation is completely rock solid. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let's map out this adventure. Okay, let's dive right into our agenda. We'll start with the initial Java learning roadmap, then unpack the JVM architecture, tackle fundamental OOP concepts, master the collections framework, and finally wrap up with interview prep and practice. Starting with Section 1, the Java learning roadmap, and your absolute first steps into programming. So the Scientech Easy roadmap doesn't just assume you already have a fancy developer setup ready to go. It explicitly guides you through three very crucial, very practical steps. First up, downloading and installing the Java Development Kit, or the JDK. Next, you're setting up the Eclipse IDE, which is your integrated development environment, essentially your digital workbench. And then finally, it actually guides you through writing, compiling, and running that classic, very first Hello World program. It's really all about securing those early wins. Moving right along to Section 2, unpacking the JVM architecture and really understanding how Java runs under the hood. Now, what's really interesting here is how it categorizes a massive, sometimes overwhelming ecosystem into digestible, essential components. You know, when you're first learning Java, throwing around acronyms like JDK, JRE, and JVM can get incredibly confusing. But this tutorial carefully maps them all out. You learn that the JDK contains your development tools, the JRE provides the libraries to actually run the code, and the compiler turns your human-readable text into what's known as bytecode. And that brings us to the absolute star of the show, the Java Virtual Machine, or JVM. The curriculum really emphasizes the JVM as a crucial checkpoint in your learning journey. Why? Well, because the JVM is the magic ingredient that makes Java platform independent. It's literally the reason you can write your code once on a Windows machine and run it flawlessly on a Mac or a Linux server. Grasping this architecture early on transforms you from someone who just types lines of code into someone who truly understands how software executes. To further cement that understanding, the curriculum doesn't just look at Java in a vacuum. It provides 26 vital differences between C and Java, along with 22 differences between C++ and Java. By directly comparing Java to these legacy languages, the roadmap brilliantly highlights Java's unique features, like automatic garbage collection, and helps anyone who might have a background in C or C++ transition their mental models super smoothly. Let's step into Section 3, Fundamental OOP Concepts, which is essentially the core philosophy of Java. If Java had a rulebook, these four pillars would be right on page 1: encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, and polymorphism. And these aren't just fancy vocabulary words to memorize. They're the fundamental ways you structure logic in an object-oriented programming system. The Scientech Easy tutorial pairs every single one of these pillars with real-time examples, so you aren't just learning what they are, you're learning exactly why you need them to write clean, reusable code. Let's focus on one of those pillars for a second: inheritance. So the crucial point is how the curriculum breaks this down. It doesn't just stop at the basic idea that a child class inherits from a parent class. Oh no, it takes you deep into the mechanics. You're exploring superclass and subclass relationships, seeing how access modifiers restrict or allow inheritance, and tackling complex ideas like aggregation, composition, and exactly why Java handles multiple inheritance so differently than other languages do. Moving over to another OOP pillar, polymorphism, the syllabus uses some really great direct comparisons to clear up common points of confusion. Think about the difference between method overloading and method overriding. To a beginner, those sound incredibly similar, right? But they operate entirely differently. Overloading happens at compile time within the same class, while overriding happens at runtime between superclasses and subclasses. The roadmap makes absolutely sure you conquer these nuances through specific, targeted examples so you never get lost in the theory. And the roadmap uses that exact same comparative style for abstraction, contrasting abstract classes with interfaces. But what's really cool is that the tutorial doesn't just contrast these two methods of hiding implementation details, it actively updates its curriculum to include modern features. For instance, it specifically covers Java 8 additions like default and static methods within interfaces. It's proof that you aren't just reading an outdated textbook. This is a living, modern guide. All right, Section 4, the Collections Framework and Mastering Data Management. Before you can use a tool, you gotta know what's in your toolbox, right? This massive landscape of the collections hierarchy is systematically broken down by the curriculum. You've got lists for your ordered collections, sets for unique elements, maps for your key value pairs, queues for processing order, and iterators to traverse them all. It is a vast ecosystem for sure, but the roadmap chunks it out beautifully. Let's move to a specific example and see how this builds a complete mental model. To master an array list, you don't just blindly jump into the code. Step 1, you understand where it fits in the hierarchy. Step 2, master the broader list interface rules. Step 3, learn how to actually iterate or loop through an array list. And then finally, step 4, apply it to the real world by storing your very own user-defined class objects inside that list. It is a step-by-step, highly logical layering process. This really illustrates the sheer depth of the technical deep dive we're talking about. Under the list interface, you'll be implementing array lists, linked lists, and vectors. Under sets, you'll tackle hash sets and tree sets. Under maps, hash maps, and tree maps. You're going to learn exactly when it makes sense to use a linked list over an array list for much faster insertions, or when you absolutely need a hash map for instantaneous data retrieval. It truly turns you into a developer who understands data structures inside and out. And finally, Section 5, Interview Prep and Practice, or Getting Job Ready. You see, the curriculum doesn't just abandon you once you know the theory, it hits you with the exact granular hurdles you are going to face in a technical interview. For example, consider this question. Can we override a static method in Java? The short answer, by the way, is no. That's actually called method hiding, not overriding. But it's this exact type of highly specific, slightly tricky question that interviewers absolutely love, and this source material directly prepares you for it. Because let's be honest, theoretical knowledge evaporates if you don't use it. The tutorial actively tests your understanding with top 10 interview programs, incredibly detailed exception handling exercises, and targeted multiple choice question quizzes. This completely ensures that you aren't just passively reading, but you're actively writing code and testing your own logic under pressure. The prep material is incredibly structured too. The interview questions are fully categorized so you can easily focus your studying. If you have an interview coming up and you just know you're a little weak on OOPS concepts or the collections framework, you can navigate directly to those specific question banks. It's a completely tailored approach to helping you land a job. Now, the reason this incredibly structured roadmap works so perfectly is real-world expertise. We're talking over 8 years of professional coding, full-stack development, and teaching experience from the founder, Deepak Gupta. This isn't just randomly assembled information from the internet. It is a carefully curated path built by an educator who has spent nearly a decade guiding students from total novices all the way to IT professionals. Well, we've traversed the entire SciTech Easy curriculum, Dren. You've seen the underlying logic, the JVM architecture, the object-oriented philosophy, and the exact path to acing the interview. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. You now have the ultimate roadmap from JVM to collections. What is going to be the very first Java program you build to start your journey?